Once upon a time, there was a king who fell in love with a noble woman. Before the king went on a trip overseas, he made sure to draw up a ketubah for his intended. This would be her protection while he was away and the guarantee that he would return. As a pledge of his loyalty, he made sure that the contents of the ketubah were very generous. He promised her, "When I return, I will prepare X number of wedding canopies for you, and I will give you X number of gowns made of fine purple wool," and so on. With these expressions of love, with these reassurances of their shared future, with these promises for the life that they would build together, the king left the noblewoman for a far-off country. Time passed, and the king's ship did not return. It wasn't long before the noblewoman's neighbors came out to mock her. They said, "Don't you see? The king has left you and is never coming back." Hearing their explanations, the king's ship must have been lost at sea, or the king has fallen in love with another, or the king never truly loved you in the first place. That was all in your head. Naturally, the noblewoman cried and wept. But when she returned to the quiet of her own home, what did she do? She took out that ketubah and she read it over and over again. She could hear the echo of the voice of her beloved in every line. "When I return, I will prepare for you X number of wedding canopies, and I will give you X number of gowns made of fine purple wool." Remarkably, rereading the king's promises was enough to bring her immediate comfort and a renewed sense of confidence and dignity. Just seeing the beautiful strokes of her beloved's script was enough to make her heart swell with love for the king. Time passed and the king's ship was still delayed. The neighbors continued to taunt her. The noblewoman would sink into doubt and despair when she heard them, but then she would hurry home and she would read the loving promises recorded in her ketubah. She would take comfort and confidence and find enough courage to remain hopeful. Now, I should reassure you, because I can see that you're getting nervous. This story does have a happy ending. Not all stories do, of course, but this one, written some 1,500 years ago, does. Finally, eventually, the king did return. When he was reunited with the noblewoman, he said to her, "My dear one, I am amazed. How did you wait for me all these years?" And she explained, "Were it not for the gracious words of the ketubah you wrote for me before you left, my neighbors would have ended me. Their hateful lies, wrapped in the guise of sincere concern, would have finished me." And that is where the story ends. The midrash then shifts abruptly to the voice of Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, who retold the tale in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, and he breaks down the metaphor for us, his students. You see, whenever there is a king in rabbinic midrash, you can bet it is a placeholder for God. And the noblewoman, in this case, she is the Jewish people. Rav Abba explains, our neighbors demean us and say, "Your God has turned away from you. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, has abandoned you and will never return to you." Hearing this, we cry, we are bent with worry. Until what? Until we swiftly return to our homes in the synagogues and the study halls, and we take out that Torah scroll like a ketubah, and we read it and reread it again and again, and there in every line we hear the voice of our beloved, the Holy One, blessed be God. There are written God's promises to us, "Ufaniti alechem, v'hakimoti et briti itchem." I will turn towards you, I will uphold my covenant with you. And we study the beautiful strokes of the script in the Torah and we fall in love all over again, because there it is written, V'natati mishkani b'tochechem, I will place my temple in your midst. V'hitalachti b'tochechem, and I will be with you. V'hayiti lachem lelohim, and I will be your God. V'atem tihiyali la'am, and you shall be my people. When we gather in the sanctuaries of our synagogues to read loving words of Torah like these, we immediately take comfort. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana plays out the metaphor for us, saying, tomorrow, when redemption comes, the Holy One, blessed be God, will say to the Jewish people, my children, I am amazed by you. How did you wait for me all those years? And on that day of joyful reunion, we will answer, Ribono shel olam, Sovereign of the universe, were it not for that Torah that you gave us at Sinai, the nations of the world would have broken our spirits. As it is written in the book of Psalms, Lulei Toratcha, had your Torah not been our delight, we would have perished. Le'olam lo eshkach, and so I will never forget your commandments, for through them you have sustained our lives. I want to thank my teacher, Ilana Steinhain of the faculty of the Hartman Institute, for calling my attention to this instructive and insightful teaching found in Midrash Echa Rabbah. It is a story of love and loneliness, a story of despair and hope. Even though it was written in the 6th century in Israel, I find it to be so true for this moment that we are living through. I wanted to share it and its wisdom with you, adding just a few embellishments of my own. I pray it will provide direction and intention for each of us in this new year just begun. Good people, for 2 years now, we are like that noble woman. We have often felt alone, isolated, abandoned by those we thought we knew, by those we thought we could trust. We have often been mocked and taunted by fellow citizens, misunderstood and misrepresented by the press and even by elected officials. We have cried and we have had moments when our spirits were nearly crushed by the cruelty of strangers and even by those we thought were friends. There are days we wonder, whom can we trust? There are nights we wonder, are we and our children safe here? To our surprise, there are times we do not know if we can speak freely. With colleagues in the workplace, with classmates on campus, we fearfully choose our words very carefully, and sometimes we choose silence instead. So what can we do? Well, like the noble woman, we can cry about it. It isn't just our imagination. It isn't just our inherited trauma getting to the best of us. No, this is for real. So let's have a good cry about it. And then let's quickly climb above it and move beyond it. Let us be careful not to get stuck in the Schrei Gewalt and the wringing of hands. Let us make sure that this short arc of time is just a moment, because helplessness and hopelessness will get us nowhere fast. Where do we find our comfort now? In a number of places, actually, and today I'll name just 3. First, in our true friends, and there are many. In this way, we are not like the noble woman. For us, thank God, there are many who see the world through similar eyes and understand the news of the day with similar discernment. There are many who pray for and work for a vision of the future similar to the one that we pray for, that we work for. Today, we are joined by Reverend Dr. Jason Biasi and Reverend Dale Barrett of the Timothy Eaton Church. God knows they are true friends, and they continue to show up again and again to pray with us in our house of worship, to pray with us in their house of worship, to study scripture together, to advocate with us shoulder to shoulder in meetings with elected officials. May God bless them and their congregation. And today we are joined by representatives of the Toronto Police. Thank God for Division 13 for showing up today and every night. I wish your watchful eyes and your protecting presence were not so necessary now, but we need your help. And we are grateful for you and for your service. May God watch over and protect you as you watch over and help to protect us. So, my friends, I urge you to build every bridge that you can with good neighbors, with trusted colleagues. Explain that anti-Semitism is not a Jewish problem, but a Canadian problem. Explain that it is a warning, a sign that Canada is in trouble. On Yom Kippur afternoon, we will pause from our prayers to turn to study. In Judaism, study is actually a form of prayer. There will be many wonderful teachers on a range of topics. One of them is an open conversation between our congregant, now Minister Evan Solomon, and Professor David Kaufman of the Association of Canadian Jewish Studies. Their topic, The State of Canadian Jewry, was prompted by a recent article written by Professor Kaufman. In that article entitled Two Inward Turns, Kaufman, the historian, considers this: it is tempting to say that October 7th changed everything, and in some ways it did. But as a historian, I find myself wary. We know that traumas can feel transformative in the moment, only to see that over time, much of the basic structure of life remains the same. From my perspective, Kaufman says, it's still too soon to say whether October 7th and its aftermath have fundamentally reordered Jewish life in Canada, despite the very real emergence of a new form of hatred that suddenly appears everywhere and seems, at least to most Canadians, to be socially acceptable. Canadian Jews are traumatized, but trauma is not the same thing as structural change. In terms of legislation, policy, socioeconomic standing, and much of our embeddedness within Canadian society, most of what was true on October 6th, 2023, remains true today. Furthermore, Professor Kaufman suggests that this disorienting and destabilizing time of Canadian separation from the U.S. has also brought an unexpected opportunity for Canadian Jewry. He writes, reawakened Canadian nationalism, it seems to me, has created a wider civic space in which Jewish Canadians can reinvest in the national project, not defensively, but assertively. If Canadian Jewry can align its particular communal needs with this broader surge of civic pride, it can not only shore up its security, but also help shape Canada's next chapter. It may also be an unexpected call for Canadian Jews to know themselves better as Canadian Jews. So I urge you to read Professor Kaufman's article in its entirety in advance of Yom Kippur. It is linked on our website. Why this conversation in our synagogue on the holiest day of the year? Because I believe Holy Blossom Temple has a unique role to play in the unfolding story of the state of Canadian Jewry. From its very founding in 1856, our congregation has been contributing and oftentimes a leading voice in creating a national identity for this country. Members of this congregation, of all backgrounds, of all talents, of all walks of life, have always wanted to love this country, and we have always wanted to be loved by this country. Today, there is real talk among us about that second passport. About once a month or so, I am writing a letter to help someone, young or old, to make Aliyah, which is wonderful if you are running to Israel rather than away from Canada. Today, as your rabbi and as an immigrant to this country myself, I wish to say to you, do not give up on this country. There may come a time, God forbid, but don't give up on this good country or our place in it, not without a fight. This has been our fate throughout much of our long history, in fact, most of our long history. From the time of our patriarch Jacob, who was renamed Israel, the one who struggles with beings divine and human, when he was wrestling in the dark with that mysterious being and said, I will not let you go until you bless me. That is what Canadian Jewry must say to this country that is worth fighting for. We will not let you go until you bless us. In the coming days, we'll be hearing from our Advocacy Committee. They are preparing a series of advocacy days, a series of opportunities for volunteers from the congregation to be trained by CIJA and then to meet with city councilors. We're going to start locally, and then in time, God willing, we'll branch out, building from there to Queen's Park and perhaps on to Ottawa. Why is this also part of our work now? Yossi Klein Halevi teaches that in just 2 generations, the Jewish people has gone from no homes to 2 secure homes, one in North America and one in Israel. And I'm going to speak about Israel on Kol Nidre, but today I want to focus on Canada. In those 3 generations, there was growing optimism, growing confidence, growing capacity to contribute to the world because of these 2 great centers of Jewish life. And because we didn't have to spend our energy defending ourselves, we had time and talent to devote to the greater good. And in those generations, there was nearly boundless optimism. We felt that we had won. We defeated the ghosts of the Holocaust. When we pledged never again, we meant it. We believed it wholeheartedly. But now it feels that we have gone so swiftly from 2 secure homes to 2 insecure homes, and only time will tell. Every Shabbat, we offer up a prayer for our country. Inspire our leaders to be responsive to your will so that Canada may be to the world an example of justice and compassion. Deepen our love for our country and our desire to serve it. Cause us to see clearly that the well-being of our country is in the hands of all its citizens. We mean it when we say these words. Since our arrival, we have always meant it. So advocacy is a second place where some will choose to find comfort and not to cede our places, especially in liberal circles, in artist circles and literary circles and film, in unions and HR, in social work and healthcare, in education and academia. Stand your ground and make sure your voices are heard there. And a third response must be a religious response. Like the noble woman, we can rush to the synagogue and we can take out our Torah. We can rush to Jewish spaces, to safe spaces and sacred spaces, to remind ourselves of who we are, where we come from, and to whom we belong. Here we remember what it means to be in covenant with God and the Jewish people. Hold fast to it and do not let it go. This is the most tried and true response, this religious response to isolation, to fear and doubt. Zichronot, remember who you are. and weather this storm. On Erev Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi McCarroll spoke about Jewish joy. Yesterday, Rabbi Kay spoke about spirited Jewish identity. They are not naive when they speak of these things. In fact, here at Holy Blossom, Jewish joy and matters of the Jewish spirit are a very serious business. They are no less than a strategy for Jewish survival. And thank God it is working. The joyful and soulful Judaism we create here 365 days a year is hard-won by many volunteers, by many professionals, and it is attracting many good people who are seriously searching for sacred community now. And many of you are in this room. We welcome you. In fact, let's take a moment. If you're a longtime member of the congregation, look around you, see if you can find someone you don't yet know, introduce yourselves, and welcome one another to the new year. Don't be shy.
Good enough.
Wonderful. I am so proud of this village of more than 1,900 households. Together we are thousands of Jewish souls, young and old and everywhere in between. Together we are creating not an island of isolation to shelter one another, but rather a palace to strengthen and enliven one another. This palace has many doors of entry. Each door leads to another beautiful chamber of discovery. There is one for sacred study. There is one for prayer and ritual. There is one for sacred deeds and personal practice. In this palace, not a fortress, but a palace, here we promise one another that inside we will feel not only more safe, but also more kind, more noticed, more comfortable, more comforting, and more discerning than it is out there. Here we find sanctuary in one another. In this palace sanctuary, there is reason when people ask me, "How are you?" And I answer, "The world may be a mess, but in my little corner of the world, thank God, we are doing all right." These glorious holy days are the container that will hold us for a while. They will help us to remember, or perhaps learn for the very first time, who we are to one another. In conclusion, for a long time now, we've been telling the story of anti-Semitism as a political story, as a sociological story, and it is both those things. Anti-Semitism needs to be addressed by elected officials, by law enforcement, by the courts. It needs to be studied by sociologists and corrected by educators and by parents and grandparents. But anti-Semitism also raises theological questions. Why the Jews? How have we survived, and what are we surviving for? What is the meaning of this Jewish story? And I'm serious, I want you to talk about it at your Yontif tables. Ponder the mystery of the wonder of Jewish history. Because there must be a purpose to this millennia-long pattern of isolation and reunion, of loneliness and loss, of losing our place among the peoples and finding it again, of losing our place in the presence of Malkeinu, our beloved one, the King on high, and then finding one another again. Let our contemplations be prompted by religious ideals and by our moral imagination, rooted in religious beliefs and religious practice. A deeply religious question is being asked of us today. It demands answers that come from the depths of the Jewish spirit. So I will end as I began. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana suggests that one day soon God might just come and say to us, "My children, I am amazed by you. How did you wait for me all that time?" And we will answer, "Ribono shel olam, sovereign of the universe, were it not for the Torah wisdom that you gave to us, the nations of the world might have broken our spirits. But because we return to the Torah Ketubah and read it and reread it, all the promises you made to our ancestors and to us, to our children and our children's children. Lulei Toratcha, had your Torah not been our delight, we might have perished by our despair. Le'olam lo eshkach, and therefore we will never forget your commandments, for by them you sustain us. You sustain our lives. May we each be written into the book of life for another year of life. May 5786 be a year of goodness and peace for us, for Canada, for Israel, and for all the world. Amen.